All right, guys. Time to step back and reevaluate things a little bit. So, game just wrapped up. I there were multiple points in the last 10 minutes where I thought about just coming to make my post game video a little bit early, but I hung on, hoping something might happen, and it almost did. In fairness, right? I mean, that the end of that game got very, very interesting, admittedly, and hats off to a handful of players on this team for making that happen. But 29-20, and I'm just gonna say it should not have been that close. I know there was some funny stuff that happened at the end of the game, but in terms of the back and forth of this game over the 3+ hours, that was a whooping. We got whipped. And quite frankly, we got bailed out because of a very fluky play at the start of the game. So this post-game video is powered by BetUS. More on them in a minute. But yeah, this video is going to be about reevaluating things a little bit as we go forward because, look, I've been very positive about the team over the last 7-8 months. I've been optimistic about the decisions they've made and the moves that they've made. I've been happy with most of the things that are going on with this team. And I'm not saying those things go away after today, but I am going to say we need to pull back a little bit and reevaluate what we have because I know a few things, right? I know a few things with this team that I'm very satisfied with, but there are some big picture things that I think we need to at least take a step back on. And what I mean by that is not to say that I'm done with anything in particular on this team. I'm going to give this a full opportunity to play out, you know? I'm going to give this every opportunity to play out. But after today, I have to look back at the off season we just had in the first month of the year where most people were very, very happy with the results that we were getting. And even before we started playing games, but certainly after we started playing games, people were definitely looking at things and going, okay, we got the coach. We got the head coach. We checked the box. Whatever happens, maybe this year won't be great. Maybe this year won't be everything we want it to be. But we got the coach. The box has been checked. And after today, I'm not saying you gotta put the check in the other box, but I am unchecking the box. And they're gonna have to start over from the beginning because a good coach shouldn't let that happen. So, like I said, 29-20, and that game should have been over in the third quarter with the way the Giants were completely outplaying the Seahawks. Right? 14-point swing on a ridiculous fumble at the goal line that gets returned 102 yards. Shout out Rayshon. Shout out Baker. But I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. I thought he got in the end zone. Or at the very least, it was so close that if they called it a touchdown, I'm sure it would have stood. So even that's kind of that's like a coin flip. So you win your coin flip. You win your 14-point coin flip. And still, you're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left, just desperately scrambling, trying to make it a win. So, defensively, that was humiliating. And it's got me all the way back on Macdonald now. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm saying that we need to stop assuming that he is a good coach. I think we need to yank back on that narrative a little bit here and let things play out over the course of a couple of years before we make that judgment. Because I think the judgment, a lot of people feel like they've already made it. No. A game like that it forces you to reevaluate. All right, before I go any further, I do want to tell you about my friends over at BetUS, the best online sportsbook and casino in the business. You can head over there right now. You still got a few minutes before Sunday Night Football starts up. You got a very interesting Cowboys-Steelers game. And tomorrow night, you have another very interesting Saints-Chiefs game that you can go bet on right now. Currently, BetUS, with the promo code YouTube150, will give you a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. and then 125% deposit bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Check out BetUS, best sportsbook out there. Get to some gambling. And yeah, YouTube 150 is the promo code that you want to use for some free money. Okay, so anyway, back to it. I'm sorry, but you're playing the Giants. You're at home. You're playing Daniel Jones, who has played pretty mediocre at best football so far this year, right? No Malik Neighbors, so they got nothing at receiver. No Devin Singletary, so they're down to a backup at running back. And what they get? Did they hit 400? They flirted with 450 yards of offense. The only reason why they didn't drop serious pointage on you was the goal line fumble, which again could have gone either way. That was a complete coin flip. So to see the defense play like that, like you could have told me that we had Pete Carroll and Clint Hurd on the sideline this week, I would have believed it. That's how bad it was. Defensive backs giving cushion, playing off. Trey Brown had the worst game I've ever seen him have. I'm a Trey Brown fan. I think he's a good player. I think he's had a pretty decent career here when he's played. But that was worse than any Trey Flowers game that I can ever remember seeing. That was abysmal football by Trey Brown. And I know Woolen got hurt, left the game, didn't come back. I know Nwosu got hurt, left the game, didn't come back. But there is a 0% chance that the Seahawks can play that card in any way, shape, or form when the Giants are missing probably their 2 best playmakers on offense, right? Like, okay, Andrew Thomas is probably their best player on offense, but I have 0 interest in playing that game when the Giants are out there with no Neighbors and no Singletary. So you can shove that one away. If you're thinking about using that one, get it out of here. The run fit's atrocious. Like, what do you think the Giants are going to do? They don't have much of a deep threat. They can't throw the ball deep. Jalen Hyatt felt like he barely saw the field. They hit one big play to Slayton. Nice throw, nice catch. Good for them. But what, are you afraid of that? Or do you think Daniel Jones is going to hit that 10 times? No. Play aggressively. Play underneath. What are we doing here? I was shocked at how bad that defensive game plan was. That was something straight out of the Pete Carroll playbook. Who cares who the opponent is? Let's just do the same thing we would do against any other team. No! You game plan for the opponent you have. And obviously there were some extenuating circumstances in this game. We had the short week. Giants had the long week off. So they came in with a lot more rest. But a good coach should make that not matter. And look, maybe Mike McDonald's not a good coach right now, but he will be if we give him a little bit of time. Of course, that's a possibility. And it's one that I was very much aware of potentially playing out this season. So, of course, there's no panic button here. There's no, oh, we got the wrong guy. I just don't know if we got the right guy anymore. And what I'm saying is that we as Seahawks fans need to kind of pull back and acknowledge that maybe we got the guy. But the reevaluation needs to begin going forward because that was a humiliating performance by the defense. Now, there was a narrative going into this game. A lot of the beat reporters said something to the effect of, oh, Boye Mafe could have played, but we decided to hold him out because of the Thursday game. If that was the case, then that was a very bad decision because we, for most of that game, did not breathe on Daniel Jones. And when we did, it felt like planned pressure, right? Like, for the most part in that game, we got 0 pressure on Daniel. So if that was the judgment call that this coaching staff made, that, oh, it's just the Giants, we don't need Boye Mafe, we're fine, that's a big fat L. That is a monster L. And I understand load management, but if that was the call that they made, and we'll never know, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like we're going to find out in the next couple of days, that's horrific because Boye Mafe didn't play last week. You didn't need to load manage him. So if this was just like, oh, we don't think the Giants are going to pose any real kind of a threat, well, you took the L on that one. Tackling, abysmal. I don't want to kill Rayshon Jenkins right now because he did have the fumble recovery for a touchdown, and that was a great play, but terrible tackling from him. Terrible tackling on some of these Daniel Jones runs. Arm tackling, like every which way you can screw up your tackling. It's just the worst, man. Like right from the start of the game, we get gifted 3rd and 17 because Daniel Jones falls over and drops the ball. And then we give up the screen pass. We give up an 18-yard screen pass on 3rd and 17. Next play, screen pass. Next play, everything going wrong. Everything a complete disaster. And I said to myself, watching this game through most of it, that I'm not saying that Macdonald needs to be a good coach right now because he just started, but a good coach would not let this happen. A good coach would come up with something to keep that coming. So Brian Daboll, I know that he's on the hot seat right now. I don't think he should be after this game, but he had Mike Macdonald coming and going. Last week, I said that Macdonald kind of got his pants pulled down, but I gave him a break because of all the players we were missing. This week, no. His pants, it wasn't just his pants. He lost his underwear in this one, too. So, that's what I'm going to say this week. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm not saying we got the wrong guy. But what I'm saying is, we don't know if we got the right guy anymore. You can't freak out about one game, but I think you can when it's coming off a loss and you're playing at home against a bad offense that is missing their 2 biggest playmakers. So call it overreaction Sunday if you want to, but there's some things that are not okay right now. And if we had that game when Pete Carroll was the head coach, I would have been immediately calling for his firing after the game. So I got to be fair here. I got to also call out Macdonald. And I'm not calling for his firing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid. And anybody calling for that, I'm sorry. You're not that sharp. You're not that smart. You don't understand how this works. But we got to restart. We got to start from zero here. And that's not to let the offense off the hook. I got through 12 minutes of this video, and I haven't even said a word about the offense, which, look, it's definitely not the side of the ball that I'm more embarrassed of. Like, don't get me wrong. The defense to me is far and away the side of the ball that needs to be hit with a ruler all week. But I don't know what Ryan Grubb is doing here. I love pass-first offense in football. I love throwing the ball. I love an offense that just comes out there and imposes their will by throwing the ball. I think that's modern football. But that doesn't mean you leave the running game in your other pants when you go out there for the game. 7 carries for Walker and Charbonnet. 7 carries. And look, don't get me wrong, it's not just that. The carries that we did have to Walker and Charbonnet were mostly ineffective. So, to a certain extent, yeah, those guys need to play better. Those guys need to do better if they want the ball more. The offensive line needs to block better on run blocking if they want to be allowed to run block more. But 7 carries? In a game where we were up 7-0, it was tied going into halftime. We got behind by like a score in the third quarter. That game was not out of control. The Lions game was one thing, right? That game got out of control. This game was not out of control. And I know that there was probably some anxiety on the side of that ball because the defense was playing so poorly. And you were like, man, we're going to have to get in a shootout here to keep up. But the game was not out of control. And as an offensive coordinator, as a play caller, you need to keep a lid on it. You know you've gone too far when even I'm saying you need to run the ball more, man. And we went through this against Denver. We tried to pass the ball a bunch in the first half. Wasn't working. We had to go to the ground game, and it worked. It settled the team down, and we were able to get that win. Geno Smith led the team in rushing yards, but it's not even close. That's not even interesting to say. He led the team in rushing attempts almost. He was 1 attempt away from leading the team in rushing. We have 2 second-round picks on this offense. We have mostly a run-blocking offensive line. What the heck? So maybe you got to reset the conversation a little bit on Grub now as well. Again, I'm not saying he's a bad OC. I don't think that he is. I don't think he could have done the things that he did against the Lions without being a good OC, but I'm just saying reset the clock on this. DK, I'm sorry. I got to do it. How can we not talk about it? Like, look, it's just one play in a game where so many things went wrong. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Like, there was so much stuff in this game that went wrong. But that game was flowing our way. We had just come up with a excellent 20-second drive to kick a field goal right before half. We had the ball after a 3-and-out. We were driving. We were in field goal range on the way to a touchdown. Geno was feeling it. We were even running the ball a little bit. DK catches it. And I will say this, Deonte Banks, who played a tremendous game, he punched it out. But, we can't be having this stuff. Like, that play completely flipped everything. After that point, the Giants had complete control of the game for what felt like an hour. It wasn't until we were down 2 scores that we actually started doing something that even made me pay attention. So, what else? There are certainly other little moments in this game, like the JSN drop on 3rd down when we were driving for the win. If JSN catches that ball, I think we win this game. But of course, excuse me, my cough is not going to be any better after that game, by the way. My cough does not appreciate the way that game went. But it's one drop, right? Like, I'm more annoyed with the fact that we played the first 55 minutes of this game, and I don't even know if we targeted JSN or Noah Fant once. Like, a serious question. Did we target JSN or Noah Fant once in the first 55 minutes? I know they didn't have a catch. We paid big money to bring Noah Fant back. We spent a first-round pick on JSN. How are we playing this game, throwing the ball almost probably 85% of the time, and those guys don't have a target? Shout out to Geno. I thought Geno played a pretty good game. There are 1 or 2 plays you could pinpoint, like sliding feet first to bring up 4th and 1 instead of a 3rd down conversion. Maybe like the Lockett throw on 2nd down. What would have been the game-winning touchdown was a little bit overthrown, but I think that had more to do with Lockett having to stop and start. Shout out to Lockett, by the way. I do think that he actually played a good game. He's the one playmaker on this offense that I felt really good about after today. But man, there was so much wrong with it, and I didn't even touch the offensive line yet. And believe me, they need to be touched. I praised them a little bit after the Lions game. I thought things were getting a little bit better, and I don't think this was as bad as the Broncos game, maybe not even the Dolphins game, but we are talking about little gradients of garbage here. They're down in the dumpster no matter what. Like, every game, the offensive line is dumpster juice. This was a slightly better flavor of it, but we are talking about little shreds of improvement, because still picking up penalties. Forsyth had 2 penalties today. By the way, worth noting, the game-tying field goal attempt, we might still be playing football right now if that kick goes through, by the way. It was either Bradford or Tomlinson. I'm not sure which one. One of them just straight up dove down and allowed Simmons to get in there pretty much untouched. And that caused that. So let's call them out for that too. Connor Williams getting his pants pulled down. Why do I keep talking about pants in this video? Getting just dominated by Dexter Lawrence multiple times. I think it was Bradford, by the way. The red zone's just showing the replay now of the blocked field goal. I think that's Bradford. Like, what's going on there? Simmons almost didn't have to jump. He stepped over the offensive line. Again, not that he played his best game or anything like that, but I do want to give a shout out to Geno. I do think he played pretty well, and I do think the team let him down by and large. I mean, oh my God, the 4th and 1, where you've got 3 players releasing into routes on the right side and nobody touches Brian Burns. They just gave that guy like $140 million to rush the quarterback, and nobody touches him on 4th and 1. This is what got Shane Waldron memed out of town, man. This is what got Shane Waldron memed out of town. Nobody touching Micah Parsons on 4th and 2. So what's the damn difference? The difference is we still got 12 games left on the season. And these guys just got here. We're going to give them time to get better, of course. But this was a very disheartening game. And I'm going to repeat it again. I've said it many times in this video because I don't want anybody to misinterpret my words. I'm not saying that Mike McDonald is bad. I'm not saying that Ryan Grubb is bad. But we're going to have to reset a little bit after that one. Because that was really bad and really not okay. And it shouldn't happen. A good coach wouldn't let that stuff happen. Once again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Remember, always gamble responsibly. We'll be streaming later tonight during the Sunday night game. But bad times, guys. Bad times.